You're listening to Potty Mouth Radio, the home of movies, music, television, and comedy. The following podcast contains spoilers and rude words. We watch a thing. We watch a thing. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to We Watched a Thing with Billy and Dave. How you doing, mate?
I am excellent. Apparently, I'm Venom.
Oh, mate. That's right, because this week we've gotten to what I think was both of our most anticipated film of the year.
I'm sorry. It was your most anticipated, and this is on record, was Fast fucking 10.
It can't have been Fast 10. That didn't come out this year. Did it? No, that was last year. Was it Godzilla X Kong?
I knew it was a piece of shit. Sorry, it was an even worse piece of shit. Time has proven you're wrong on that one.
I think this was my number 2, though.
All right, I'll give you that.
So, in fact, I was going to say, I think next week we should probably record our most anticipated films of 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll need to. There's a lot of grey area there. I mean, are they Marvel films? Who knows? Not that they'll be on the list these days.
But this week we got to Nosferatu, which is a 2024 American supernatural horror film written and directed by Robert Eggers, a remake, of course, of F.W. Murnau's 1922 silent film Nosferatu, itself inspired by Dracula, although really this is kind of just a mix of both. It stars Bill Skarsgård as, Wikipedia says, the titular character, but his name is not Nosferatu, he's Count Orlok.
Yes.
And Nicholas Hoult, Lily Rose Depp, and Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Emma Corrin, Ralph Ineson, and Willem Dafoe in supporting roles. And what is it about, Dave?
It is about the story of Dracula. Count Orlok is a mysterious Transylvanian count, and young... it's going to be very hard not to say things like Jonathan Harker. Young Nicholas Hoult, who is newly married to Lily Rose Depp, is sent by his boss, Simon McBurney, over to negotiate a sale of a mansion to the Count. And if he does that successfully, he will secure himself a cushy new permanent job in the company. Thus setting themselves, he and Lily Rose, up for their new life together. Obviously, as we all know with this well-trodden story, he gets to the castle. Although first he's warned off by the villagers, as you are, and then he arrives at the castle. The plainly eternally vampiric count keeps him there longer than he would like. He goes through all sorts of ordeals, and meanwhile, the Count moves to his new house, seeking out Lily Rose Depp, who he has yearned after for centuries, and they need to engage the services of a crazy, debunked professor who seems to know about this occulty shit to try and save her soul.
Yeah. So let's get straight into it then. As I said, it was your most anticipated of the year, my second most anticipated. We both love and adore Eggers. I don't think he's had a miss yet. He's had an amazing run of 3 films. I am a huge fan of the original Nosferatu. I've studied Gothic literature and written essays on it, and I love it. So I was very, very, very excited for this. You and I have not spoken about it yet. I've taunted a little.
For you to disappoint me.
Well, I'm waiting to find out what your genuine thoughts on it were. So how about we start there? All right. Tell me about this film.
I loved it. It wasn't quite what I was expecting, to be honest. I thought, because going into it, I hadn't seen any interviews with him. I'd steered clear of everything except the very first teaser trailer. So I wasn't aware of quite how much of a passion project this was for him. I just assumed it was in his wheelhouse. He loves period stuff. And it was just something I didn't realize it's his favorite ever film. It's the thing that made him want to become a director, that he'd done a school play of Nosferatu when he was in school. So I wasn't expecting it to be as kind of faithful as the film was. I thought it was going to be more him doing, a weird Eggers spin on it. So it wasn't quite what I expected, but I loved it nonetheless. I think it's a gorgeous film. I think the acting's all off, other than the fact that because it's such a well-trodden story, there's not a lot of surprises in there. I think it's kind of hard to pick faults with it.
Interesting.
So,
well, I'm gonna give you my real thoughts now. So as I said, I was very, very excited for this film, and I think it's a fine film, but I was very underwhelmed. I don't think it's a fantastic film by any stretch. I think for me, it's absolutely Eggers' weakest. It's interesting. I kind of, because I was the same, I didn't know a lot of that stuff. And then when you hear him talk about what a passion project it is, it just makes me go, really? Like, if this is your passion project, where's the passion? I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it at all. And it's weird, right? Generally, when you're talking about a remake, particularly a remake of a classic film like this,
yep.
The worst thing a remake can do is try and imitate the original. And yet in this case, I only really liked this film when it was emulating the original. It was really only those, the scene of Jonathan Hutter, Nicholas Holt's character, getting on the carriage to go to the castle. Yep. Fantastic scene, but straight from the 1922 film. Like, all of the stuff at night where you've got the blue wash and the shadows at play, fantastic. But it's just emulating the look of that original film. I found the dialogue really poor. I didn't like the majority of the look of this film. I thought Skarsgård was crap. I did not like it. Like, when you compare, I get it. Eggers is, as you said, he loves period. He loves research. He probably did a whole bunch of research into how someone at that time would look, and he was like, "Yep, that person would have a Dr. Robotnik mustache." Okay, I get it. That's him being accurate, but the look of that character is awful to me. Like, when you compare Skarsgård's Orlok to Max Schreck, there's no comparison. Max Schreck, even though it's over 100 years old now, that character design and the acting and everything is so much more imposing and terrifying than anything we get from Skarsgård in this film. Like, again, don't get me wrong, I thought the film was fine. I didn't actually like what Eggers did by kind of incorporating more of the Dracula story into it. I would have rathered more of a straight translation of the Nosferatu story rather than what we get. Like, I don't need the guy who hunts vampires.
Oh, yeah. Van
Helsing.
Alban Eberhard von Franz.
Yeah, who's really Van Helsing. Not in the original film. That's straightly kind of translated more from Dracula. I didn't need that. All that did was drag this film out for me. I didn't need any of that. And so, yeah, I was kind of left in this weird middling place where I like the film, but I was expecting to love this. Like, you hear Robert Eggers doing Nosferatu. To be honest, for the first half of this year, I thought we were in for a silent film. I was like, fuck yes, Eggers is going to swing for the fences here and give us true German expressionism. And instead, he gave us a kind of dud script with some okay performances that has a lot of pacing issues. And I was just disappointed.
Oh, I'm sad for you because I know how much you were looking forward to it.
Yeah.
As I was. I mean, I obviously was a lot warmer on it than you. I'm not going to use the phrase his weakest film because I obviously don't think it's a weak film. I probably would put it fourth in his filmography at this stage. I do want to see it again, but I mean, I certainly didn't feel the runtime sitting in IMAX and in packed IMAX. I've never been in an IMAX theater that's been every seat booked, which I thought weird for an Eggers film. But
this is the thing, and I remember saying this after I saw The Northman too. And on rewatches of The Northman, I liked that film more. So maybe I'll feel the same about this film, although I don't think I'll ever like it as much as The Northman. My biggest critique of The Northman was that it was in this weird place where it felt like a mix of an Eggers film and a studio film. Like, a lot of it felt very kind of cookie cutter, but like it could have been Conan the Barbarian. Like, it felt very much like a standard film rather than what Eggers gives you, where, you know, you look at The Lighthouse, nobody else could make that movie. The Northman felt like it could have been made by somebody else.
The fact that both his most recent two films are both not original works. They're both.
I think that's probably really part of it. Yeah,
and it's not just that they're a remake or adapting something. They're two of the most
classic stories that have been remade over and over again. I think that's definitely part of it. And, you know, I have no problem with that, but because of Eggers' previous works, I think I went in expecting him to add some gravitas or something. And I didn't feel that in this film. It just felt like another Dracula film that anybody could have put out there.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely got some Eggers through. I mean, it still felt like a Robert Eggers film. I thought the film was visually stunning. I think Yaron Blaschke and he are, at the moment, certainly my favorite kind of director cinematographer pairing. You know, and it could also be, I mean, same production designer again as on all four of his films, same editor on all four of his. He's got his little team, and so I do feel like a continuity in the kind of look and the feel of these things. And I mean, right from the outset, that opening sequence with Lily Rose Depp, the big kind of one where she wakes up and she's walking across, and you've got that awesome bit with the curtain billowing in with his shadow, but he's not there when the curtain sort of falls. All these
great shot, but again, I feel like all that stuff that makes use of shadows, that's when he's most emulating the look of the original film. That's when he's really leaning into the German expressionism. You know, like my favorite shot in the film. Again, I'm not saying it's a ripoff. It's not like Gus Van Sant's direct shot for shot Psycho.
Oh no!
But I'm saying that it's the look that is inspired by the original film. When it does that, that's when I liked this film most. You know, like the shot of him looking over the city, which again, that is an iconic shot from the film. But then, yes, Robert takes it further and you get the shadow of the hand stretching out, and that's a fantastic sequence. That's great. But the majority of the rest of the film didn't have that to me. It was really only those night scenes where we get the blue wash, and it's very much evoking the feel of that original film.
Well, that was one of the things that I loved, and I'm sure it's a collaborative thing. I don't know if it's him or if it's Blaschke or taking the kind of look and feel of Nosferatu, but then bringing in some of Murnau's technical, like it was very much the color washes were very much straight from Murnau's Sunrise, which was a few years after. I mean, I think it was 1929, if memory serves. But that's one of my favorite silent films. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But it has that, you know, evokes mood by having different color washes depending on the mood that Murnau was trying to convey. And I don't think Eggers lent far enough into it.
No, that's what I mean. It's
like you did have a blue wash for some. You did have a kind of a sepia yellow wash for particularly some of the Van Helsing. Whatever his name was, France. You know, the Willem Dafoe bits had kind of a sepia yellow wash. You had, you know, two or three other colors to kind of differentiate the feel of different scenes. But I would have liked more of that. I think the fact that it was, because it's not a black and white film, as you said, it's kind of muted color. It's about it's as close to black and white as you can get while still being color, because it's very, very subdued in the color. But I would have almost liked it to be a black and white film just with the color washes.
Yeah.
And really lean into that kind of Murnau Sunrise.
Yeah. Which is, I think, kind of, and that's my fault for just having too high expectations of Eggers. But when you get a filmmaker like him who has made such intriguing and thought-provoking and very artistic work, I just get disappointed when I see something like this, and I'm like, well, this is Dracula. This is marginally better than Coppola's version.
Oh,
like anybody could have made this film
head and shoulders above. I mean, we didn't have a terribly fucking English accent at Keanu Reeves.
No, we didn't. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather watch Gary Oldman's Dracula than watch Bill Skarsgård's Count Orlok again. I did not think it was good. Wow. And you know, the voice, the voice and the moustache, None of it is imposing or threatening. By the time we hear his voice, and it is so digitally affected, like
I don't think it is.
oh, are you kidding me?
That is Skarsgård's voice.
That's not Skarsgård's voice. Like,
Yeah,
yes, Skarsgård is doing the voice, but are you telling me that you don't hear the echo and the reverb and everything that's put on
Eggers
it?
and that are lying. That is his voice.
It is his voice, but we're not hearing it raw.
But well, the way they talk about it in the interviews I've seen since watching it, that there is no quote unquote treatment to his voice. It's like Mercedes McCambridge in The Exorcist. He just
that's a joke.
Practice.
No, that's not reality. It's not his voice. It is so digitally affected. It has reverb, it has chorus, it has so many treatments put on it that it's just so not threatening to me. You didn't hear all the chorus and reverb and stuff?
There might be echo, but I don't think they've done anything to it.
They haven't pitched him up or anything, but there's a lot of treatment on it.
They may have put some echo or something behind it. But the voice came from out of his mouth.
Yeah.
I think he is fantastic in this film.
Wow.
And such a refreshing. I had gone off because I think he was great as Pennywise. I think his creation of that character, a lot of it's the makeup, but I think he did an incredible job with that character, and I was so disappointed in The Crow that it made me really not like him again.
Yeah.
So I was really, really pleased with what I think is a pretty incredible performance by him in this, and I think the makeup on him is outstanding. Leaving aside, I get where you're coming from with the design. Not my Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, and again, that's a me problem.
I was surprised for the first kind of third of the film because I got suckered in by the red herring poster that got put out, which was him as kind of the Max Schreck.
Oh, see, I didn't see that
look.
Yeah.
But obviously taller and thinner. But the bald head, the two fangs, the long fingers, and all of that. I don't know if that was a fan thing or if it was deliberately done. Because I thought it was an official poster. It could have just been a red herring to throw people off.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let's talk about the rest of the cast then. I know that you're a big Lily Rose Depp fan. I'm going to really disappoint you here. I think it's a fine performance. I don't understand the people who seem to think that it's an incredible performance.
I think she is very good, and I was surprised by how good she was, particularly with the more physical stuff. And there's some real fucking Exorcist body contorting, and I think that's where she shines. I think when she's doing dialogue, I don't think she's bad, but she didn't kind of wow me with that stuff. I think where she wowed me was the physical stuff and the moans and the screams and the contorting and the spider walking and all of that sort of stuff. The rest of the cast, I think, are fine. The biggest disappointment for me was Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who I think is pretty fucking hammy in this.
I think he's okay. Again, I don't think it's a terribly well written script, and I think particularly his character's not very well written. I think he has some good scenes. I quite like the scene where he kind of breaks into the tomb to farewell, shall we say, his wife.
His final moments, I think, are by far the best, where he's really he's hammy and almost cheesy, I think, in some scenes where he's being angry. And I think it's kind of the plummy accent that he's affecting for the role. I just don't think he's nailing that.
Yeah.
But when he is really breaking down, when he realized, after all these fucking kids get their throats torn out, then I think he's a lot better from that point on. I think in general, with the exception of kind of the physical aspects of Lily Rose Depp and Bill Skarsgård, who I do think is very good, I think the acting is all solid. I don't think any of it's...
For me, my favourite performance in the film was Holt as Hutter. I think that he's always good. He's the character who has the most emotion throughout the film. Apart from Aaron Taylor-Johnson's kind of one turn towards the end of him. Holt really is our emotional through point in the film.
Sorry, I tell a lie. The one performance I thought was pretty outstanding is Simon McBurney as Holt's boss, who then turns into our Renfield character. Knock.
Yeah.
He fucking tackle out, eating chickens, fucking doing whatever.
Yeah.
He was great. But yeah, sorry, you were saying Nicole.
No, I agree. I think that Knock was good as well. Like I said, I don't think this is a bad film. I think it's got some good. I really, really, really liked the score to this film.
I think, it's like with all Eggers things. It's the one consistent thing, and the reason that I love his stuff so much is the perform. Sometimes there's great performances. Obviously, Andy Taylor-Joy in The Witch.
Yeah.
Andy Taylor-Joy in The Northman.
You just like Andy Taylor-Joy.
Defoe and Pats. The performances come and go. They're always solid, etc. But it's the look, it's the sound, it's the editing, it's the production design, it's the research as well, and all of that's here in spades because it's him again, it's Yaron Blaschke again, it's Louise Ford again on editing.
It's interesting how different we are because that's the stuff that disappointed me. Like, I didn't think the production design of this film was exceptional, and I didn't, like I say, apart from the moments where it's really emulating the look and vibe of the original film, I didn't think any of the cinematography was that special, and I really did not like the character design of Skarsgård. So, I thought it was a fine film.
That's kind of your central.
Well, that's right, and like a lot of that's a me problem. Like I understand that. That's me. I have no problem with the people who are enjoying this film. I do think it's certainly a little hyped. I think if this had a different director's name on it, I don't think people would be going as rabid about it. Because, like I say, to me, I definitely feel like it is just another Dracula film. But look, I'm a 7 out of 10, 6.5 maybe, to be honest.
7's actually higher than I thought.
Yeah, like it's definitely not, like, as you know, it wasn't in my worst of the year, but it's not going to be in my best of the year, and I really thought it would be. Like, that's part of the reason we decided to wait until now to do our best of the year list, because we wanted to see this first. I'm assuming this is going to make your top 5.
Oh, look, I haven't done my list yet. It's definitely top 10.
Yeah.
It's a contender for top 5. I do want to try and watch it again if I can before then, which is, I realize I haven't got a huge amount of time now that I think about it. Look, I think I'm in part maybe a little warmer because I did have the whole packed IMAX theater experience, which I mean, obviously the crowd helps. Certainly the IMAX and the IMAX sound helped because I was on my chair like this the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm sure that helped. Look, I'm an 8 out of 10 on it.
Okay.
At the moment. I don't think it will go down. It might go up. I don't know. I do think it's probably my number 4 in his filmography. I think I'm still Witch, Lighthouse, Northman, kind of like that, and then this.
Yeah.
But look, pound for pound, he's still my favorite working director. I think he's the most, he hasn't had a miss as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
In any other director's filmography, this would be a high point. It's just because it's him that it's you got to kind of compare them all. But I wasn't disappointed in it the way it sounds that you certainly were.
Well, again, that's my biggest problem, and that's why I'm trying to temper it, and that's why I'm still giving it a 7. I do need to rewatch it because so much of my problem with it is my disappointment at it. Because, look, I love the original film. I think it's one of the shining examples of cinema.
I rate it higher than the Lugosi Dracula, which I think is also a fabulous film. But in those early horror films, it's probably my number 1 out of those.
Yeah.
And then Frankenstein, and then Dracula, etc., etc. Some of the Chaney Phantom and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a phenomenal film. That and maybe Caligari as well.
Yeah. I just think it's amazing how much horror that film can evoke, given how tame it is by today's standards.
Yeah, and look, for the listeners, because I'm sure we've got listeners out there that haven't seen it because it's 1922, it's black and white, it's silent, it's if you've only seen still photos or little tiny snippets and you think, I'm not going to watch that because it seems kind of cheesy, you've got to and I would implore people if they can find it, because let's face it, we haven't touched on the whole lawsuit. Stoker estate wanting all the copies destroyed, etc. If you can find it, and I don't know if there's one on streaming somewhere that's available, try and find it and watch the thing properly, because you don't get in those stills and YouTube clips and memes and all the rest. You can't get the atmosphere that comes from that film. Murnau is one of the greatest directors who has ever lived. And Sunrise in particular as well, I would implore people to try and see if they can, because it's a beautiful film.
100%. All right. The other film that I at least got to this week, I don't know if you did, Dave, but I got to Anora. Have you had a chance to get to that?
And I know nothing about it. I know people have said it's their favorite of the year. I don't know what it's about. I don't know who's in it. It's just a word I've heard.
Well, this was another film that I really wanted the chance to get to before we record our best of the year list, because I've seen it top so many lists, and it's written, directed, and edited by Sean Baker, who I personally love. Florida Project was my top. Florida Project, that was my top film the year that came out. I love Sean Baker.
Everyone fucking 5-starred Red Rocket, and I was like, really?
So I was
3 at best.
Well, I unfortunately had a similar experience with this. So Anora is a comedy drama film, as I said, written, directed, and edited by Sean Baker. It stars Mikey Madison. Really, that's the only person you need to know. Everyone else is full-on Russian. Mark Edelstein, Yura Borisov, Karen Karagulin, Vaish Tovmasyan, and Alexei Serebryakov.
Okay.
And I will give the heads up to listeners that the film is 50-50 English and Russian. And in cinemas, the film had hard-coded subtitles for the Russian portion. Now that it's out on video on demand and streaming, it does not. So if you watch it without subtitles on, you just have to guess through the Russian stuff. You need to turn on actual subtitles for the whole film to be able to read the Russian subtitles. I think it's a flaw in the distribution of the film. But
to be fair, I read something not too long ago that something like 90% of Americans watch all
with
TV
subtitles
on permanently, which I find insane. But apparently, even a Scottish accent is enough to make people think it's a foreign language film.
So look, it's definitely a film worth watching, is what I'll say. Like, I'm not going to give spoilers here because you haven't seen it.
What's it about, though?
So Anora is a New York City prostitute. She's a sex worker. So realistically, she's a stripper who I guess sells sex on the side. She doesn't consider herself a prostitute. She's
just very happy endings.
Yes. Because she is able to speak a little Russian, one night in the club, the boss comes over and says, hey, there's a Russian guy here. He wants a girl who can speak Russian. Go, give him a dance. And she forms a relationship with this guy who, as it turns out, is the son of a Russian oligarch. And so the story kind of goes from there. I think that it's too long. I think that the pacing is a bit off on the film. The first kind of 45 minutes to an hour is them kind of forming their relationship. And I think the biggest problem with that is that there's not actually a whole lot of chemistry there, which nor should there be, because it's not really a real relationship like that. It's not the film is not about a romance between these two, but basically he proposes to her for a green card to stay in America. She marries him. She gets all kind of sunshine and roses about it and thinks they're in love, but it's a film, and of course that's not how a story goes. So most of the film kind of turns into a bit of a comedic Three Stooges type thing, as her and this other group of Russian mobsters search for her husband through the city after he goes missing. And that's really what the meat of the film is. And it has some really great moments. Like, when this film is funny, it's really, really funny.
Oh, it's comedy.
It's listed as a comedy. I would refer to it as a dramedy more than anything, because it has some very dramatic turns as well, particularly towards the end. But when it's funny, it's really good. Its biggest problem is the pacing. It's at least 25 minutes too long.
I felt that from memory. That's what I thought about Red Rocket as well. I thought I still wouldn't love it, but I felt the length of it.
Yeah.
Really. It's like this guy needs a better editor, or he needs to not edit himself if that's what he always does.
And I think the biggest problem for me is that you feel those pacing issues through the entire film. Because for me, it's not like one section is too long. The first section is too long because there's a lot of repetitiveness. You know, it's just her and the Russian guy doing drugs, having sex, doing drugs, having sex, and you get that after a certain amount of time. I don't need to see it repeating and repeating. And then once they start searching for him again, there's a lot of, they go to a different diner. Where's this guy? You seen this guy? They go to a different diner. Where's this guy? You seen this guy? So it has some pacing issues. Mikey Madison is absolutely fantastic in this film.
Do I know him? The name's not familiar.
Her. She plays Anora.
I thought she was
No, I believe she... I mean, it's definitely not her first performance. It's the first thing I've seen her in. Yeah, not like she's kind of had bit parts. She was in Scream in 2022.
Yes, I do know her. I know her from Scream.
Yes.
She was one of the killers in the Scream 5.
Yeah. So
the one that Jack Quaid.
Yeah. So she's really, really excellent in the film. She's really, really funny, and her dramatic turns are fantastic as well. So it's worth watching for her. I don't think she's going to get an Oscar nod, which I've seen a lot of people predict. She was up for Best Actress in a Comedy at the Globes, but of course that went to Demi Moore. So. But I would definitely recommend watching it. Again, same as Nosferatu, I'm a 7. I liked it. I didn't love it. My biggest problem was expectations. So,
yeah. Well, I'm glad I've had you temper things, because I was expecting to have the same experience that I had with Minari, and the same experience that I had with 2 or 3 other things, where I get to them late. Everyone's gone a best thing of the year. What was the one with the Korean Past Lives?
Oh, right. Past Lives. Yeah.
All films that I liked.
Yeah.
But I came to them late when everyone else had said best thing of the year. Oh my God, 5 out of 5. Can I give it 6 out of 5? It's that fucking good. And then by the time I get to it, I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I came in expecting Citizen Kane. So I'll probably really like it now, because I'm coming in with more tempered expectations.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, there we go. That's it for this week. Next week we are getting Paul from the Countdown Over, and possibly Carney from Sanspants. I'm still waiting to confirm. And
go to a Macca's where you've got Wi-Fi, Carney. What do you think,
and we'll be talking our best of the year, as well as, of course, by tradition, our best of 2014. And I really need to get cracking on that list. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at pottymouthradio.com or pottymouthradio@gmail.com.
Yep. Let me shout out before you roll the music in. Shortly, Gerald Morris or Nick Haskins will be putting up a vote. I will share links to that. I did draft of 2020 best of 2012, and I need your votes.
He really needs your votes, because I've seen the draft and Dave did not do well. I'm kidding. You all had films I liked and disliked, but you would get my vote, of course, Dave.
Boy.
Head over to our Patreon. We're doing our bonus series Shyamalanigans, going through M. Night Shyamalan's career, and straight after this we're talking about Lady in the Water, a true classic if I've ever heard of one.
Possibly better than The Shape of Water.
Well, spoilers, it's not.
And there'll be some announcements on the Patreon front as well. I'll be putting up in the next 1 or 2 weeks with some exciting stuff on the Patreon front. So keep your eyes peeled on the listener community for that.
Starting to put up full videos of all of our recordings on the Patreon as well, so go check that out. And we'll catch you next week.
See ya!